The girl was just reaching for the candy. Her tiny fingers were stretched toward the open van door, eyes wide and innocent, fixed on the rainbow-colored gummies the man held out. He smiled, that too wide, too friendly smile, and leaned just an inch closer, whispering something she couldn't quite hear. From the parking lot across the street, Valor, the canine dog, went still. His muscles tensed. The leash in Officer Megan Parks' hand pulled taut as he leaned forward, ears up, hackles rising. Something was wrong. Megan didn't see the girl at first. Not the man, not the van, just Valor, staring into the park like he'd caught a ghost in the wind. That's when everything started to unravel. It was supposed to be an easy shift. Just patrol the neighborhood near Emerson Elementary, wave at a few parents, pet a few dogs, keep things boring. Megan liked boring. Boring meant no crying, no reports, no mess to clean up before shift change. But that was before she got assigned to Valor. The German Shepherd was a retired military canine, shipped back to the States after serving 2 tours overseas. His record was spotless, his training elite, but his last handler had been medically discharged, and no one at the precinct wanted to take on a dog with combat instincts. Except Megan didn't really get a choice. Her partner went on leave, and the captain handed her Valor's leash like he was doing her a favor. "You'll like him," the captain said. "Just trust him." Easier said than done. The dog didn't bark, didn't whine, didn't even wag his tail. He just stared, always scanning, always calculating. And today, as they turned the corner near the school playground, Valor's entire body stiffened. "What is it?" Megan muttered, fingers tightening around the leash. No answer, obviously, just a low growl vibrating through the leash into her hand. She followed his gaze across the street. There, just past the swings, was a white ice cream van parked half on the curb. Not totally weird. It was near a park, after all. The driver wore a red hat, waved at the kids, tossed little wrapped candies from a bin. A few parents stood nearby, distracted on their phones. But Valor wouldn't move. "Come on, buddy, let's go." He didn't budge. Instead, he inched forward, the leash straining. He wasn't barking, wasn't pulling hard, just focused like a missile locked onto a target. That's when Megan saw the little girl. She was maybe 7, blonde hair and pigtails, wearing a faded yellow hoodie. She wasn't with any adults. She stood at the edge of the van, tilting her head as the driver leaned forward and handed her a plastic bag filled with candy. "Wait," Megan whispered. She crossed the street quickly, but not fast enough. The man looked up, smiled, friendly, too friendly. "Officer," he called, "just spreading some sugar around. Kids love it." Megan tried to hide her skepticism. "Where's her parent?" The girl turned. "He said my mom sent him." Megan blinked. Valor barked. It was like a gunshot in the quiet park. One sharp, commanding bark. Then the leash flew out of Megan's hand, and Valor charged. If you believe in the power of animals to protect and heal, don't forget to subscribe to Heroes for Animals right now. Real stories, real heroes, 4 paws at a time. Valor didn't go for the man. He went for the girl's backpack, clamping his jaws on the fabric just as she reached for the van door. She yelped in surprise as the momentum pulled her backward, the gummy bear bag flying from her hand. "Hey," the man shouted, "get that dog off her." Megan ran. "Emily, stay with me," she called, guessing the girl's name from the sticker on her backpack. The girl was confused, scared. Her face twisted into a cry that never came. "Ma'am, your dog's out of control," the man said, now stepping forward with open palms. "I was just being nice." Megan grabbed Emily and pulled her close. "You said her mom sent you?" she asked. The man shrugged. "She said she was waiting for someone. I thought I'd keep her company." "You asked her to come to the van," Megan pressed. "Just offering candy. Nothing illegal about that." He laughed nervously. Valor growled again. His body was between Emily and the man, eyes locked on the driver. Megan narrowed her eyes and glanced inside the open van. Coolers, snacks, music speaker, all normal. But then she saw it. A black duffel bag, partly unzipped, with duct tape, zip ties, and 3 cell phones stuffed inside. She took a step back and pressed her radio. "This is Officer Parks. I need backup at Emerson Park. Suspicious vehicle. Possible attempted luring. Stand by." The man noticed. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, I didn't do anything." He turned to the van door, started reaching in. "Don't!" Megan shouted. Too late. Valor lunged again. This time, he didn't aim for the girl. He went for the man's bag strap, ripping it from his shoulder and spilling the contents onto the grass. Snack wrappers, kids' bracelets, a coloring book, 2 more unregistered burner phones. The man froze. Megan raised her voice. Hands where I can see them. The backup sirens wailed in the distance. The park fell silent except for the sharp wind and the steady growl of a dog who knew exactly what he was doing. Emily's parents arrived 10 minutes later, breathless and pale. They had only been gone 5 minutes. A quick run to grab coffee while Emily played under the tree, the same tree they always sat by. She had wandered, just a little, just enough. Megan didn't scold. She didn't need to. Emily clutched her arm tightly. The dog saved me, she whispered. Megan looked down at Valor. His ears were perked, tongue out, calm again. But his eyes still watching, always watching. Valor didn't move. The van was surrounded now, sirens fading into the background as officers secured the perimeter and started questioning bystanders. Officer Megan Park stood just behind her canine partner, one hand resting on his back, the other gripping Emily's tiny shoulder. The girl was trembling, not from cold, but from the invisible fog of fear that still clung to her like smoke. Her big brown eyes blinked up at Megan, disoriented, trying to make sense of everything. Are you okay? Megan asked gently, kneeling beside her. Her voice softened, shifting from command to comfort. Emily nodded, but her lips quivered. He said my mommy sent him, that I'd get in trouble if I didn't come. Megan's stomach turned. She glanced over at the man, now cuffed and seated on the curb. He was rambling, eyes darting, face still stretching into an unnatural grin like nothing was wrong. The candy bag lay forgotten on the pavement. Valor stayed planted between them, watchful, protective, still as a statue. 20 minutes later, with Emily safely reunited with her mother inside the ambulance for a routine check, Megan joined Officer Keller by the van. Keller was new to the precinct, young and eager, but tonight his face was grave. You see this? He said, pointing at the inside of the duffel bag. There's more. Look under the lining. Megan leaned in. Hidden beneath the clothes was a compact camera, wiped clean, and an envelope stuffed with cash. Her jaw clenched. That's not an ice cream man, she muttered. Not even close, Keller replied. Back at the station, Megan sat alone with Valor in the K-9 unit garage, her hand absent-mindedly running through the fur between his ears. She wasn't just shaken, she was angry, deeply morally offended, that not just as a cop, but as a human being, as a woman. They train you to sniff explosives, she murmured, half to herself, half to him. But somehow you knew. You knew. Valor's eyes met hers. There was no tail wag, no whine, just that steady, resolute gaze, like he'd been waiting his whole life to stop something like that. And he had. Later that night, Megan went back over her body cam footage. Frame by frame, the pieces clicked together. The man's posture, his eyes scanning the park every few seconds. The subtle way he positioned the van near the edge of the fence line. In partial shadow, engine still running. He hadn't been improvising. This wasn't random. He'd planned it. Her blood ran cold. Megan stood abruptly, heart pounding. She pulled up the precinct's database and ran his face through facial recognition. No hits. She tried fingerprint scans. Nothing. But when she searched missing children reports and started cross-referencing school zones from the surrounding counties, a pattern began to form. 3 vans, 3 parks, 3 near misses. And always the same description from witnesses. Friendly guy, gave candy, said the mom sent him. It was a script, and Emily had nearly been the next chapter. The next morning, Megan was called into the captain's office. You've stirred up a hornet's nest, Captain Brooks said, tossing a folder onto the desk. What do you mean? Media wants a statement. The mayor wants talking points. And Valor? He gestured toward the window where the dog sat patiently outside. He's trending. Megan blinked. Trending? Video went viral overnight. One of the parents filmed the whole thing from the moment Valor lunged. Megan winced. Is that a problem? Brooks leaned back. Depends. If you want to play hero cop, this is your moment. But if this guy's connected to something bigger, we'd better move quietly. Megan looked down at the folder. I want to dig. Brooks gave a slow nod, then dig. That evening, Megan drove back to the neighborhood. Emily's mother, Rachel, had agreed to speak with her again, away from flashing lights and sirens. They met at the family's porch swing. Emily was asleep inside, a princess blanket tucked around her small frame. The porch smelled like fresh rain and warm coffee. The silence was gentle, but the air still held tension. Rachel's face was drawn. It was just 10 minutes. I left her to grab her sketchbook. We've done it 100 times. Megan didn't judge. He's been in other counties. You're not the only one. Rachel stared out into the street. I keep thinking, What if your dog wasn't there? Megan exhaled. He's not just my dog, he's something else. They sat in silence a moment, letting the weight of the almost tragedy settle between them. Rachel added, Emily doesn't talk much, but last night she said something before falling asleep. She whispered, the dog didn't bark at the man. He barked at the lie. Megan felt her throat tighten. That night, she knelt beside Valor's crate, rubbing the bridge of his nose. You didn't save her because she was a target, she whispered. You saved her because she believed him. 2 days later, the FBI got involved. Turns out, the burner phones in the man's bag weren't wiped clean after all. One still had GPS metadata from prior stops, including an abandoned storage unit 2 towns over. Megan got the call before dawn. She was suited up and ready in 15 minutes. Valor waited at the cruiser door, tail low, eyes sharp. They drove in silence. When they arrived, federal agents were already on scene, but no one entered the unit until Megan gave the nod. Valor went first. The storage unit smelled like mildew and rot. Valor sniffed cautiously, pausing at one corner where a tattered blanket was laid out. He lowered himself to the floor, ears back. Then he pawed at something behind the wall, a panel slightly ajar. What they found inside didn't make the news, but it changed everything. That evening, Megan filed her report in silence. Valor sat beside her desk, paws crossed, still wearing his vest. Captain Brooks passed by and gave a short nod. You were right to trust him, he said. Megan didn't answer. She looked at Valor. He didn't trust the man, she murmured. But more than that, he didn't trust the silence. And maybe that was the thing about dogs like him. Canines with battlefield instincts, but civilian hearts. They didn't need words to tell the difference between good and evil. They felt it. And sometimes when the grown-ups were too distracted or polite to see danger, the dog barked at the lie. Megan knew something was wrong the moment she stepped into the interrogation room. It wasn't the suspect. He sat there looking the same as he had 2 days ago, smug and still. No, it was the silence, a cold, unsettling stillness that felt like holding your breath in a thunderstorm, waiting for the sky to split open. Across the glass, Agent Curtis from the FBI stood watching, arms folded, his mouth drawn in a tight line. The man had refused to give a name, no ID, no fingerprints in any system. He spoke in short, vague sentences, answering every question like it was a joke. Just being friendly, he'd said again and again, smiling that off-putting, too smooth smile. But Megan knew better. She didn't trust the smile. Valor hadn't either. And Valor didn't lie. They reviewed the footage from the storage unit. Hidden behind the false wall were blankets, food wrappers, a few children's books, and something else, a hand-drawn map. Multiple locations were marked with red X's, all in suburban areas within 200 miles. Some were parks, some were schools. One was a church playground. The sickening realization was clear. This guy had a pattern, a system, and the FBI wasn't sure he was working alone. By the next morning, Megan was back on patrol. The sun was out, kids were walking to school, and everything looked normal. That's what scared her the most. Normal could hide so much. Valor sat in the passenger seat of the cruiser, eyes sharp as ever. His ears twitched at every unusual sound. A barking dog, a delivery truck's back door slamming shut, a bicycle tire skidding on the curb. He was hyper-aware, always reading the air. Do you think they know? Megan said aloud, nodding toward a group of kids playing kickball in a yard. Valor didn't react. She didn't expect him to. But something inside her was shifting. She wasn't just a cop on patrol anymore. She was someone who had seen the edge and refused to look away. Around noon, a call came in about a man loitering near Jefferson Elementary's parking lot. Megan responded immediately. When she arrived, the scene looked harmless. A man in his 50s leaned against a sedan with a clipboard, chatting with a staff member who didn't seem alarmed. The kids were inside, no immediate threat, but Valor bristled the moment they pulled up. Megan stepped out, keeping her tone even. Afternoon, sir. Everything okay here? The man smiled, that casual, practiced kind of smile. Absolutely, he replied. Just doing a volunteer survey about school lunch programs. I already cleared it with the office. Megan turned to the staff member. Did he check in? The woman hesitated. He said he was with the district. Megan felt a chill crawl up her spine. Sir, can I see your ID, please? He fumbled, chuckled. Oh, I must have left it in the car. Valor barked once, loud, sharp, deliberate. The man flinched. His hand had started to inch into his coat pocket. Step back, hands visible, Megan ordered. It turned out he had no connection to the district. The clipboard? Fake. Inside the car, A wig, a burner phone, a pair of binoculars. Another close call. Another smile that masked a predator. That night, Megan sat in her apartment, the glow from her laptop casting shadows on the walls. She hadn't turned on the TV. She didn't want noise, she wanted focus. She was pulling up every report of attempted child luring within the past 6 months across 3 states. There were dozens. Most went unsolved. Most involved vague descriptions, candy, vans, friendly men with warm eyes and nothing in their hands but lies. She thought about Emily's words again. The dog didn't bark at the man, he barked at the lie. She opened Valor's file. There it was again. The redacted sections from his previous assignments. He'd worked joint missions overseas. Some involved human trafficking, others rescue. She reached for her phone and dialed a number she wasn't sure would even connect. Sergeant Blevins, the voice on the other end answered, gravelly and tired. This is Officer Megan Parks, Shelby County PD. I've been assigned to K-9 Valor. You were his handler overseas. A pause, then a sigh. I was wondering when someone would call. Megan's breath hitched. Why was his file redacted? Because most people don't want to believe what dogs like Valor were trained to do, or what they were used against. Which was? A beat. Children, Blevins said flatly. Kids taken for things no adult should ever see. We trained K-9s to detect stress hormones, fear, panic. Valor wasn't the strongest, but he was the most sensitive. He could smell when a child was being coerced before they even cried. Megan's throat tightened. Why didn't they tell us that? Because it's not by the book, Blevins said. You want a patrol dog, not a conscience. She looked over at Valor, sleeping at the foot of her couch, ears still twitching even in rest. He's not just a dog, Megan whispered. He's a mirror. The next day, Megan asked to speak at the school board meeting. She stood at the podium in uniform, Valor by her side. Parents filled the room, half expecting another lecture about safety or budget. But Megan spoke with calm, grounded urgency. There have been 3 incidents in the last week involving suspected child luring, she said. In every case, the adult looked normal, smiled, dressed clean, sounded kind. She paused. Predators don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they offer candy. Sometimes they say a child's name. The room shifted. Parents sat straighter. Some clutched their partner's hands. And sometimes, Megan added, it takes a dog to know the truth. She gestured to Valor, who stood beside her, vigilant, dignified, calm. If you see him bark, she said quietly, listen, because he's never wrong. After the meeting, a man approached her in the parking lot, mid-40s, ball cap, quiet posture. You're the officer from the video, right? He asked. Megan nodded, cautious. I think I saw that van 2 weeks ago at my daughter's soccer field. I didn't think much of it at the time. Megan handed him her card. You thought something, she said. That's enough. Let's talk. That night, Valor lay at her feet again. Megan didn't sleep right away. She sat by the window watching the empty street lamps buzzing, wind shifting the shadows. There was no peace in what they did, but there was purpose, and purpose was enough to keep showing up. She reached down and scratched behind Valor's ears. I don't care what the file says, she whispered. From now on, we do it your way. Valor lifted his head slightly, then set it back down. Still, steady. Ready? The suspect's lawyer was already working overtime. By Monday morning, he'd spun a full narrative for the local news. His client had been misunderstood, a man with poor social awareness and a heart for the community. He claimed Valor's bite was excessive, claimed Megan had used unnecessary force, claimed it was all a miscommunication. And some people, started to believe it. Megan watched the interview clip with clenched fists, Valor sitting beside her, his eyes locked on the screen like he understood every word. He's painting him as a good Samaritan, she muttered. Can you believe that? Valor didn't blink. He didn't need to. They both knew what they'd seen. Later that afternoon, the precinct received a surprise. A woman named Carla Hendricks showed up in the lobby, quiet, guarded, clutching a weathered manila envelope like it might fall apart in her hands. I saw the news, she told the desk officer. I think that man tried to take my daughter last year. Megan was called in. They met in interview room B, no cameras rolling, just a quiet hum of fluorescent lights and a thick tension hanging between them. Carla opened the envelope. Inside were photos, fuzzy, but chilling. A van, a man's blurred face, a terrified little girl in the background, reaching for her mother's hand. I reported it, Carla whispered. But nothing came of it. They said there wasn't enough to follow up. Megan laid the photos side by side. Same van, Same eyes, same stranger's smile. Her heart dropped. He always smiles first, Megan murmured. They reopened Carla's case. The address she gave matched one of the red X's from the hand-drawn map Valor had found in the storage unit. The more they dug, the worse it got. This man, still unnamed, still stonewalling in custody, had a trail that stretched from Ohio to Georgia. Dozens of loose threads, unconnected reports, and unresolved cases. Every time, he changed vehicles, changed hair. Sometimes he used props, a pizza uniform, a church volunteer badge, even once a fake lost dog flyer. But always the same tactic: lure, lie, smile. Megan sat with Agent Curtis that night, staring at the map pinned to the board. "This guy's not dumb," she said. "He's methodical. He's rehearsed." Curtis nodded, which is why he's never been caught. Until now. Megan rubbed her temples. And people still want to believe he was just giving candy. The next morning, Megan returned to the park where it all began. Emily and her mother were there. They'd agreed to a follow-up interview. Not for evidence, but for closure. Emily sat on the swing set, feet dangling, her face more relaxed than it had been in days. Valor trotted beside her, stopping when she reached out her hand. He sniffed her palm, then nudged it softly. "He remembers me," Emily said. Megan smiled. "He never forgets the people he protects." Rachel, the mom, pulled her coat tighter. Her eyes were red, not from crying, but from holding everything in. "Is it over?" she asked. Megan hesitated. "I don't know, but he's not walking out of jail anytime soon." Rachel's voice was fragile. "That's not what I meant." Megan nodded slowly. "You meant, will the fear ever stop?" Rachel looked away. "Exactly." Megan crouched down near Emily. "Do you remember what he said to you?" she asked gently. Emily nodded. "He said my mom sent him. He said if I didn't go, I'd get in trouble." Her voice was small but assertive, not afraid, just remembering. "That wasn't your fault," Megan said. "I know," Emily whispered. Valor laid down beside her, head on his paws, vigilant even in stillness. That night, Megan returned home later than usual. Valor followed her through the door and collapsed onto his blanket with a grunt, the kind of dog sigh that only came after a long day of guarding humans from their worst impulses. Megan poured herself a coffee, decaf, mostly for comfort, and flipped through the legal updates on her phone. The suspect's attorney was filing motions, pressuring the DA. Media outlets were split. Some called Valor a hero, others questioned whether it had been too much force. She shut the phone off. Sometimes the world didn't want to see the danger. They wanted to believe every man with a smile was safe, that monsters were obvious, that evil wore a name tag. She looked at Valor, now snoring lightly, but still twitching at the sound of a truck outside. "You don't need proof," she whispered. "You just know." 2 days later, a judge denied bail. But that wasn't the end. Megan received a call from a reporter asking for a comment on the department's aggressive canine tactics. She refused. A day later, another parent reached out, a father this time, whose daughter had been approached last month by a man asking for help finding his dog. He hadn't reported it. Didn't want to make a scene, he'd said. Now he regretted it. Megan listened to his story, nodded through his guilt, and thanked him for coming forward. After he left, she sat in silence. Her badge felt heavier than usual, not because she doubted what she did, but because the job wasn't about catching the bad guy anymore. It was about convincing the world he was real. That weekend, the precinct held a small ceremony for Valor. Not public, not for cameras, just a quiet gathering in the K9 unit office. A plaque, a few handshakes, some smiles. Megan accepted the certificate on his behalf. She didn't say much, just a few words. He did what we're trained to do, only faster, only better. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out something Emily had made, a hand-drawn badge with the word protector written in crayon. She clipped it to Valor's vest. "Official title now," she said. On Monday, Megan was back on patrol. Valor sat in the cruiser beside her, alert but calm. The city stretched out ahead of them. Brick homes, mailboxes, sidewalks cluttered with scooters and chalk drawings. Kids at bus stops, parents in minivans. A world full of good people, and just enough shadows to keep them honest. Megan checked her mirror, then looked at her partner. "Let's go find the ones who smile too much." Valor blinked. Then he stood up. Ready. The week started with rain. Not the dramatic kind, not storms or thunderclaps. Just a soft, persistent drizzle that soaked sidewalks and turned the neighborhood mulch dark and slick. Megan sat in her cruiser under the gray sky, the windshield wipers moving in lazy sweeps. Beside her, Valor sat tall, watching every motion outside with determined calm. They were waiting for a call that hadn't come in yet. But Megan felt it, in her gut, in her chest. Something was building. The suspect, still refusing to give his name, had now gone 6 days without speaking to anyone but his lawyer. No family had come forward, no friends, no known address. And despite everything, the van, the bank, the map, there was no formal ID. Megan paced the hallway outside the interrogation wing, her boots tapping a steady rhythm on the tile. Valor sat at the end of the corridor, tail still, ears forward, head tilted just slightly to one side. Safe, that familiar, suspicious, evaluating posture. He's playing the long game, Agent Curtis said as he joined her, waiting for us to make a mistake. He knows we've got enough to hold him, but not enough to link him to the other open cases. We have the map, Megan said. Curtis shrugged. Circumstantial. Megan glanced down at her notebook. There has to be something we missed. Curtis handed her a fresh file. There might be. Take a look at this. She opened it. A missing persons report from 2 months ago. Small town, 3 hours south. Girl named Mariah Gaines, age 8, disappeared from a gas station restroom. No witnesses. The security footage glitched. The door never showed her leaving. Megan's fingers tensed. She flipped it to the last page. The sketch of the man, crude but eerily familiar. Right down to the curve of the mouth. He smiles first, she whispered. Megan and Valor were on the road within the hour. The gas station was still there, weathered and half forgotten, sitting off a 2-lane road between cornfields and old barns. A clerk in his 20s looked up as they walked in, eyes flicking nervously between Megan's badge and Valor's leash. We don't get many cops here, he said. Megan gave a polite nod. You were working the day Mariah Gaines disappeared? His mouth tightened. Yeah, I still think about it. She gestured to the restroom hallway. Mind if we take a look? Go ahead, nothing's changed. But something had. The moment they stepped into the hallway, Valor's ears went back. His body lowered into a silent stalk, nose brushing along the floor tile. Megan stood back, letting him work. Halfway down the hall, he stopped. Then slowly he raised a paw and pressed it against the wall beneath the old security camera mount. Megan's eyes narrowed. What is it, boy? She knelt, running her hand over the cracked tile. Then she noticed it. Just a sliver of space between 2 wall panels. A break in the grout line. A panel that could move. She pressed gently. The panel creaked open. Inside was a hole the size of a crawl space leading to a maintenance closet behind the building. It was dusty, cobwebbed, but not abandoned. Candy wrappers, duct tape, an old jacket. Megan's pulse spiked. She radioed it in. Back at the precinct, Megan laid everything out on the table in the squad briefing room. Maps, reports, victim timelines, and now locations with hidden compartments or blind spots. Curtis leaned over the evidence with arms crossed. He scopes these places ahead of time, finds the vulnerabilities. He's not just opportunistic, he's strategic. Megan nodded. And Valor's not just reacting to people, he's reacting to places, spaces that feel wrong. Curtis glanced at the dog, who lay beside the board, tail twitching. He's intuitive, Curtis said. Megan smiled faintly. No, he's right, every time. Later that evening, Megan pulled off her boots and sank into her living room couch. Her apartment was quiet, but her mind wasn't. The images from the crawl space haunted her. The what-ifs that could have ended with another missing child poster on the bulletin board. Valor patted over and rested his head on her knee. She looked down at him, the weight in her chest finally cracking. I didn't sign up for this part, she whispered. I wanted routine, speeding tickets, lost pets. Not this. But Valor didn't move, didn't flinch, just stayed with her, quiet, empathetic, present. Megan let out a long breath. Okay, she murmured, then we finish it. The next day, they got their break. A patrol officer in a nearby town pulled over a van matching one of the red X's on the map. Not the same driver, but inside was a GPS device with stored locations. And one of them was a remote cabin 90 minutes into the foothills. A possible rendezvous point. Megan was asked to assist. She loaded Valor into the cruiser before the call even ended. The drive was long, winding, through pine-covered hills and narrow back roads that barely fit 2 lanes. The rain returned, this time harder, smearing the windshield with gray streaks. Megan gripped the wheel tight. Valor sat tall, eyes fixed ahead. As they approached the turnoff, she saw it, a narrow gravel path leading to a rusted gate chained shut. Beyond it, a dirt trail disappearing into thick woods. 2 other patrol cars arrived behind her. Curtis stepped out, rain plastering his jacket to his shoulders. No power out here, he said. No cell service either. Megan checked her radio. Static. Let's go, she said, motioning to the gate. She clipped the lead to Valor's vest and gave a sharp nod. Track! They hiked in silence. The only sounds were the squelch of boots in wet leaves, the steady breathing of the officers, and the soft crunch of Valor's paws. He moved low to the ground, focused, nose twitching. 30 minutes in, he stopped. His ears went back. Then he turned, sharp and fast, and sprinted into the brush. Valor! Megan shouted, breaking into a run. Curtis followed. Branches slapped their arms. Mud clung to their legs, but they kept going until they found him. Valor stood at the base of a small clearing, body rigid, tail locked, facing a wooden cabin no larger than a trailer home barmia. The windows were covered, the door slightly ajar. Curtis signaled for backup. Megan unholstered her weapon and crept forward. Valor moved with her, slow, burdened but steady. Inside, the air was damp, moldy, the faint smell of gasoline. And something else, something worse, the smell of fear. They cleared the cabin in minutes. Empty, but there were signs of recent use, bedding, half-eaten food, child-sized clothing. On the table was a burner phone, still powered on. On the screen, a draft text message. She's ready. Van's waiting by the mill. Pick up at 5. Megan's heart jumped. Curtis looked at her. There's still time. Megan gave a sharp whistle. Let's go. Valor shot through the door like a missile. Megan had never run this fast in her life. The forest flew past in streaks of pine and fog, boots crashing into wet leaves, mud pulling at her heels like hands trying to hold her back. Rain whipped her face. The wind carried nothing but branches snapping, and Valor's barking somewhere up ahead. Valor! She shouted. No answer, just more barking, sharp, relentless. Curtis was right behind her, huffing hard. Radio's dead. If we're going to call it in, we need to find a signal. Megan didn't stop. We don't have time. If he gets to that van, then they heard it. An engine turning over in the distance. They burst out of the trees, into an open clearing. An old sawmill, long abandoned, with moss climbing the stone foundation and shattered windows like missing teeth in a giant skull. And there, just beyond the broken gate, was the white van. Same make, same model, but this time the back door was wide open, and Valor was blocking it. The dog's stance was low, teeth bared, barking ferociously. The driver, a man in a gray hoodie, was halfway inside, trying to coax someone out. Come on, sweetie, don't be scared, he muttered. We're just going for a drive. From behind him, a small voice whimpered. Stop. The man froze. Megan raised her weapon. Hands where I can see them, now. He turned, slow and careful, hands lifted, but his eyes never left the girl in the van. She was maybe 8, thin, unsettled, eyes wide and confused. Megan recognized that look. Overwhelmed, frozen. I'm not going to jail, the man whispered. Then he lunged. Not at Megan, not at Curtis, but at the girl. And that's when Valor snapped. He launched himself at the man, teeth catching fabric, pulling him down before he could touch the child. The man screamed, flailing wildly. Megan rushed in, shouting commands, weapon lowered just enough to avoid hitting Valor. Curtis was right behind her, slapping cuffs on the man's wrist as Valor backed off, tail stiff, alert, ready to strike again. The man spit blood onto the gravel and glared up at them. You don't understand, he hissed. There are others. They brought the girl out slowly. She wouldn't speak at first, just clung to Megan's vest, tears soaking through the fabric. Valor stayed close, brushing his nose against her side until she finally whispered, Is he gone? He can't hurt you, Megan said softly, not ever again. An hour later, with the scene secured and backup finally arriving, Megan stood off to the side of the mill, staring at the van. Inside, they'd found more than just the girl. 3 prepaid cell phones, 2 sets of license plates, a folder with photos, not just of children, but of pickup points, parks, playgrounds, schoolyards. Dozens, all organized, dated, documented. And in the corner of one photo, a blurry silhouette of Valor. He's been watching us, Megan murmured. Curtis appeared beside her and his face dark. He wasn't working alone. Back at the station, the girl, whose name was Lily, began to open up. Megan sat in the soft-lit interview room. Valor curled at her feet, breathing slow and steady. He'd earned a break, but even now he seemed to be listening. Lily clutched a mug of hot chocolate, her voice fragile, deliberate. He told me I had to come, that my mommy said so. He knew her name. He knew mine. He said I was special. Megan fought to keep her jaw from tightening. Did he say where he was taking you? Lily nodded. Somewhere safe. He said it was better than my house. Megan's heart sank. She looked at Valor. He blinked. That slow, steadfast, grounding blink that had somehow become her compass. That evening, Megan sat in her squad car outside the precinct, rain tapping softly against the windshield. She could have gone home, could have clocked out, but something inside her said not yet. The pieces were coming together. The map, the men, the patterns. This wasn't just one predator, it was a network. Organized, hidden in plain sight. And Valor, this dog she hadn't even wanted as a partner, had been the only one who truly understood the language of fear. He didn't need warrants or paperwork. He needed only a scent, a shift in breath, a lie in someone's voice. And that was enough. The next morning, the FBI confirmed what Megan already knew. Fingerprints from the van matched another man arrested 3 states over for attempted child luring, who'd been released on a technicality. The name they gave? A fake. But the connections were real. This was bigger than Shelby County. And it wasn't over. Captain Brooks pulled Megan into his office later that day. "You're not going to like what I'm about to ask," he said, scratching his beard. "Try me. The Bureau wants Valor for a federal task force, Joint K-9 unit, interstate." Megan tensed. "They're taking him. They're requesting him." She looked through the glass door where Valor sat in the hallway, panting softly, eyes scanning every passerby like he was still on duty. "He's not a piece of equipment," she said. "He's my partner." Brooks nodded slowly. "Then go with him." Megan blinked. "You serious? You're already halfway in, and we both know that dog won't work with anyone else." He handed her the transfer form. Her hand shook slightly as she signed it. That night, Megan took Valor for a walk around the block. No leash, no uniform, just the two of them. The sky had cleared. The stars were out. She stopped by the old swing set at the park, the same one where it all began. "It's not over," she told him. Valor sat, eyes on the shadows beyond the fence. "I'm not afraid," she added. He looked at her, not blinking, not wagging, just watching. And Megan knew if there was still work to do, he'd be there. No leash, no doubt, just him and the truth. The warehouse was plain, beige siding, rusted roll-up doors, just another forgotten building in a sleepy town in Missouri. But inside, something darker had moved for years. Megan stood outside the main entrance, wind cutting through her jacket as Valor sat beside her, eyes trained on the door like it might move. The sun hadn't risen yet. It was quiet, but not peaceful. The kind of quiet that listens. Inside were at least 4 suspects, armed, part of the same network. Law enforcement had tracked encrypted texts back to this location. The van, the burner phones, the photos, they all led here. And Megan wasn't here on patrol anymore. She was here to finish it. The task force formed a perimeter while drones circled overhead. Megan double-checked Valor's vest, gave him a gentle scratch behind the ears, and whispered, "You ready?" He didn't move, didn't bark, just blinked, steady, unshaken, focused. Curtis approached with a radio clipped to his chest and a grim look on his face. "They're not going to come quietly." "They never do," Megan said. She pulled down her cap, clipped Valor's lead, and together they moved in. The breach was fast. Doors kicked, commands shouted, flashlights cutting through shadows like swords. Inside, chaos. 2 men fled through a back exit and were caught by perimeter teams. A third tried to burn files but was stopped in time. The fourth, the one they called the collector, hid behind a false wall surrounded by monitors and files. He wasn't surprised to see them. He just smiled. Megan had come to hate that smile. She cuffed him herself, and as she walked him past Valor, the dog growled, low, guarded, like he was warning the man that whatever came next, he'd be watching. Always. By the time the dust settled, evidence teams were combing through boxes, hard drives, and ledgers. There were more names, more dots to connect. But the operation had been dismantled. The system, the secret, was no longer silent. Megan stepped outside and inhaled deeply. The early light painted the sky in pale orange streaks. Behind her, Valor waited. She knelt beside him, burying her fingers into his fur. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it." His tail thumped once. In the days that followed, the story spread across the country. News anchors called Valor a hero. Headlines screamed, "K-9 dog helps uncover national child trafficking ring." Officer and dog stop operation that spanned 5 states. But Megan stayed out of the spotlight. She declined interviews, gave only one press statement, short and sincere. Valor didn't stop because he was told to. He stopped because he knew something was wrong. "I trusted him, and I'm asking you to do the same. When your gut tells you something's off, listen, you could be saving a child's life." The clip went viral. But that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was the calls coming in from other states. Other parents, other officers who said, I think we missed something too. One afternoon, a small ceremony was held at a local school. It wasn't a parade, no TV cameras, just the students, parents, and teachers, and one very large, very calm German shepherd wearing a new vest. The front read, Protector. Emily was there, holding her mother's hand, shy but smiling. She walked up to Valor and gave him a drawing she'd made, stick figures of her, Megan, and Valor, all standing under a rainbow with the words, Thank you for barking at the lie. Megan knelt beside her and said, You were brave too. You told the truth when it mattered. Emily nodded. I'm not scared anymore. Megan blinked fast, trying not to show it. Later that evening, Megan sat at her apartment's porch, watching the sky fade to dusk. Valor laid at her feet, chewing calmly on a rope toy someone from the school had gifted him. A rare, quiet moment, one of the first in weeks. I don't know what's next, she said aloud. She hadn't told anyone yet, but the Bureau had offered her a full-time role in the National Task Force, with Valor at her side. Travel, training, more cases, more darkness, but also more chances to stop it. She reached down and ran her hand along Valor's back. You want to keep going, don't you? His eyes met hers, alert, unwavering, emboldened. She smiled. Yeah, me too. The next morning, Megan signed the papers. 2 weeks later, she and Valor were on the road. A new badge, a new state, but the same mission. Protect the vulnerable. See what others miss. Bark at the lie. Thank you so much for following this story to the very end. We hope Valor's courage and Megan's fierce determination touched something in you. Whether it was their trust, their strength, or their refusal to back down in the face of evil. Now we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt something was wrong even when no one else noticed? What did you do? Let us know in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else to trust their instincts too. And if you believe in the power of animals to protect, to heal, and to save lives, consider subscribing to Heroes for Animals for more stories just like this one. From all of us, thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the bravest voice is the one that barks.